right.
Okay. So greetings of peace, love, and light, and welcome to Raising Sun Rays. We explore the esoteric in parenting in this YouTube channel, and I am your host, Robyn Ringgold. Our special guest today is Pamela Aaralyn, and Pamela is actually one of my teachers and mentors, and I'm especially grateful to her for coming and joining us today on Raising Sun Rays. Thank you, Pamela. Pamela was born extrasensory. She had an encounter with an archangel at age 5 that really opened up her gifts and confirmed to her the path that her life would take. As a clear conduit channel, Pamela has direct access beyond the veil. She has a large following on her Facebook under Pamela Aaralyn, Spiritual Alchemist, and she does personal readings and classes and hosts monthly channelings and other classes on Patreon. And her website is www.aurareader.com. So welcome, Pamela. It's great to see you.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. Such an honor.
Oh, my honor for sure. So our topic today is conscious parenting, fostering children's innate gifts. So many parents today have children who are able to tap into their innate wisdom. Some receive messages directly from their angels and spirit guides. Some have these amazing, like, artistic and creative abilities. Some of them are very empathic and are highly sensitive. So, these children don't come with instruction manuals. So, it's not the easiest thing to parent them. And, our current, paradigm of parenting of, do as I say and conform to everything, that doesn't work. So I just want to take a moment to really send some love and encouragement and support to all of the parents out there who have such children. And all children, of course, are unique and gifted and beautiful. But, these are highly advanced souls that are coming in now. And, we have to change the whole paradigm of parenting.
Yeah.
And you would know, you have 4 kids, right? 4 children?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And every single one of them are like that. So.
Right, exactly. So I have 2 girls. They're a little older now, but nonetheless, it still applies. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to start off just talking about, we've heard these terms, indigo, crystals, rainbow children. Could you just talk a little bit about those labels and what they refer to, and if we even need labels?
I'm not going to say that we need them because that's a personal choice, but the way that I describe it in my spiritual community about labels and definitions is that when you're first waking up, it's just kind of a guideline. It just kind of lets you know, okay, this is something that the rest of the world perceives that would be going on. So right. Those definitions of indigo children, rainbow children, I've heard some new ones lately, like dolphin children and diamond children, and those kind of are elusive to me, but there could be something that I don't know yet that I'm willing to learn.
Right.
But, one of the first beings who ever started talking to me about the indigo collectives is Archangel Azrael.
Okay.
Another elusive character that humans have labeled Angel of Death.
Wow.
And that is actually the person that came through because, as a channel, important things come through, moments, hours to days before I'm about to have these interviews. Someone came through for us, and it was Archangel Raziel and Archangel Raziel. So both of them I was feeling Raziel, but he was kind of just guarding and watching. And then Azrael was the one talking. So there were some interesting messages that were shared about this indigo collective, and also Dolores Cannon has been coming through for me for the past couple years or so, talking to me about the same thing. And for those of you who have read her book, The 3 Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth, you're well familiar and well versed with some of the things that she has to say about the first wave of volunteers, which is the older indigos and not especially children. And then the second wave, which is more of like mine and Robyn's age. And then the third wave, which is the kids that are coming in now up to about age 18.
Yes.
I personally don't feel that there is an age paradigm or label attached to that. I've seen I'm supposed to be like in the second wave, according to her. But I'm a little bit more first waiver. I'm a little bit more grounded about it. I'm a little bit more protective about, because the first waivers, when they were coming in, they're kind of like the baby boomer ages, but obviously I'm not.
Yeah.
So, but I act like that. I'm a little bit more divine mother, protective, grounded. Let's keep everybody safe. Everyone's love. Let's make sure that compassion and non-judgment is applied in these parenting techniques. So my style as a parent is exceedingly more first wave indigo in that particular soul group that came in. But there's 2 other soul groups, that come through. And the third waivers are especially hard. I think that you're probably parenting like a third waiver yourself. Because I've talked about it. I'm not going to talk about it unless you want to talk about it. Respect that. But, then you have another kid who's probably more second wave, a little bit more peaceful. The second waivers appear to be more fluid, easily adaptable. They're a little bit like, whatever goes, I'm just here to support my mom. The second waivers are brilliant. They're not here to learn from you. They are here to hold a space of safety after the first wave came in and first waves come in and they're like, we're going to tear down all your paradigms, but we're going to do it safely with a smile on our faces and a hug and a warm handshake or whatever it is. We're going to do it. We're going to break down paradigms, but we're going to do it safely. Second waivers are like, we're here to help you pick up the pieces. We're the healers. We're here to keep balance. We're here to mitigate. We're here to make sure that everyone gets along and is respectful to each other. The third waivers are the most difficult ones to parent because they're here to say, oh yeah, you think you know something. Let me show you everything that you don't know. Because, the more you think you know as a parent, the more you're humbled and the more you just kind of feel like, I know nothing. Weekly, I'm on my knees with waivers. Weekly.
Yes.
One's 15 and one's 5. So it doesn't always have to come in a specific age group, but they teach me things weekly, daily, sometimes hourly, sometimes that I'm like, right, I had you figured out.
Right. So would you say that these labels, Indigo and Rainbow, do they pertain to the aura or the vibration of the children?
Vibration, yeah. I would definitely say frequency and vibration and resonance, but there are obviously so many beings that come in these soul groups. They're not always going to have indigo auras. It's more about a soul group. It's no matter what they're here to teach you and show you, and what you're here. I want to say what you would be here to teach them, but it doesn't really apply that way.
Right.
So you're here to usher in a wave of consciousness coming from these children, but no, their auras are not all indigo.
Right. Okay. So there's a concept that we choose our parents before we come, before we incarnate. And I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Do you believe that? And,
I do. And people want to believe that we wouldn't choose that because I've noticed that in this era, we choose the hardest stage of evolution. We choose the most difficult parents. I have it easy with my parents compared to you guys. I did not have a horrendous childhood.
Right. Yeah, I didn't either.
My parents were pretty safe from expressing those struggles. And I mean, it could just be also because I'm so adaptable. I'm a second waiver. So I'm just kind of like, floating in between first and second waves somewhere in my tactics and style. So to me, it wasn't a big deal. But to my brother, he had a hard time. Right. As a third waiver, he had a hard time.
Right. So it's interesting because, I think most of us grew up with parents who were like, I'm the parent, you do this, I have the authority and you're going to fear me and that's why you're going to do what I say. So, this whole new way of parenting, you have to parent from the heart. So can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah. That I was just talking about it yesterday. It requires a certain amount of authenticity and vulnerability to be open and to admit to your children that you're not perfect, that not everything that you say and do is here to model perfection, but you're here as a team to grow and learn together. Sometimes you're teaching them, sometimes they're teaching you.
Right.
It's going to be helpful to admit to your mistakes and to say, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Daily if it applies. Just so that they know that you're a human being that is on a path of learning and growth and expansion. And it's not easy for you either. So holding hands and hearts, really enforcing a sense of belongingness to your children is really important. And that came through, that has been channeled through for a long time, but it was a deep reminder from Archangel Raziel and Osriel this morning, when they came to me and said, there is a bit of an epidemic of a lack of human connection, particularly between children and parents, and has been going on for the past 20 years. And that's like the minimum of like what I would know would be going on, right? So within this epidemic, we're experiencing stronger rates of teen suicide. And so that was one of the things that he was talking to me about. And he said is because of this lack of belonging and lack of connection, where it is being replaced by the technological age, phones and devices and Wi-Fi and other ways to connect other than the handshake and the hug.
Right.
The hearts being held versus the phones. He said, when did phones replace friends? When did children stop going outside to play? Right. So he gave me some specific advice because my teenagers like to sneak the Wi-Fi when I turn it off. He said, you need to unplug, just completely unplug so that there's nothing. And if you have free Wi-Fi on your phones, you're going to have to take phones too. You have to get smarter because these kids are smart. Like I unplugged the Wi-Fi at midnight, like I was instructed. And you know what happened? My teenager did a hotspot from his phone and he was just sitting there typing and playing away. And I'm like, do I hear fingers on a keyboard? Right. It is so addictive and it promotes more lack of connection. So as long as that's going on, it's hard to even get to their hearts because it's protected by a wall of internet.
Yes. It's interesting. I had a friend visit yesterday who has 2 small children, and she said, I'm overwhelmed, I'm working, I have all these things to do, and I don't really have a lot of time to spend with my kids. So I told her, take 15 minutes and turn everything off, put everything down, and just look them in the face and say, how was your day? What's going on? How are you feeling? And even if you did that for 15 minutes a day, they can feel, loved and supported and connected.
Yeah. And you do what you can in that. Don't pull in any shame or guilt over your work schedules. They're not here to tell you to change your entire lives. Although that is a problem that did come up as well, that people are so caught up in their jobs, and that's one of the reasons I went down to part-time, with my sessions with people and my healing sessions and work, because I just couldn't do it. I'm like, I can't, these kids are going straight to computer because I'm not there. Right. And it was getting worse and worse and worse.
Right.
So tough.
So let's talk a little bit about the gifts. We had a lot of questions around, fostering these abilities and gifts that these children are coming in with. So, it's interesting. I've seen everything from, children coming in and building crystal grids at like 4 to, just being extremely sensitive, just automatically knowing that they don't want to be around certain people or just, feeling so intensely. So how do you deal with that? How do you foster the gifts that they have and also teach them that self-acceptance and understanding?
You got to model self-acceptance and show them that they belong and that they are an equal priority, not more than yourself, though, your own inner child. You are modeling by taking care and loving yourself, putting your needs equal to theirs, not above or below. You are modeling self-love. And as long as you are doing that and not there's another problem with the Indigo Collective is that many of the conscious parents are like, yes, I'm going to give my kids everything and all the love and all the attention, and they're not fostering any particular levels of independence, but then it becomes codependence and attachment. So that's the other end of the spectrum, and it does go there. I've seen that.
Yes.
And I've done it with my littlest one. And now I'm like, wait a minute, you're 5 and you don't know how to tie your shoes? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go for it. Here's
Right.
Let's get rid of the Velcro, so there's that end of it. But I would say that you need to model it, and particularly when they're in those scenarios of learning. For instance, I have a child who doesn't particularly she's 5, and she in the third wave, they will just randomly decide, I don't like that person, and they will come out and just say, I don't like you.
Right.
And
Right.
don't particularly want to be your friend. Like they'll say things, and don't be so quick as parents. It's just my perspective and what I've observed.
Mhm.
Please don't be so quick to jump in and say, oh, that's rude, that's socially unacceptable, that's not appropriate.
Right.
They have a right to feel the way they want to feel, but what you can do is teach them how to soften that up while honoring how they're feeling, and give them some space. Perhaps they need a little space. So you're at a Christmas party. My daughter did that recently at a Christmas party, and she's like, I don't like this other kid. And she said it to the kid and me at the same time. She pointed to him and says, I don't like him. He
Right.
keeps stealing my stuff, and I don't want to be around him. And he pulled my hair, and this other kid's incredibly sensitive as well. And she said, well, what should I do? And there's your opportunity, parents. There's your opportunity to step in. So I just kind of took her aside and said, well, why don't you play upstairs with some of the kids that you do like? And she's, because he follows me. And I'm like, well, maybe that means that he sees something in you that's really beautiful. And she was like, oh. So don't be afraid to foster that little ego in them, because those little egos need some love and attention and confidence and things of that nature as well. But you have to get creative.
Yes.
And use those learning moments. Those learning moments. Don't shove them away because of your schedule or because of social inappropriateness or whatever it is we call that. And don't be ashamed. Shame is often something that I see in parents. They're like apologizing for their kids.
Right.
Mine in particular, just yesterday, we were at a restaurant, and one of them wanted to walk around because he was feeling anxious. And the other one wanted to follow him because she likes to connect to him. And they were just walking around the restaurant. And,
Wow.
and I thought to myself, if this were a crowded restaurant, I may have had to apply a little bit more discipline and say, hey, I love you guys. We can need to sit down and finish our meal. But at the time, I used that opportunity to finish up some work, and I'll let them walk around the restaurant because we were like one of only 2 people that were there. So pick and choose your battles. And secondly, why does anything have to be a battle? Pick and choose your learning scenarios and decide when it's going to be appropriate for you to teach them, and when you're going to let them be socially unacceptable.
Right.
So are you to really do that? Or are you worried that they're going to make you ashamed? That's the other thing is, oh, I'm so sorry that my kids, blah, blah, blah.
Right, exactly. And that they speak their truths that, we didn't do it growing up necessarily.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of questions around, how do you recognize these gifts versus a talent? And, is there a difference between the two? And, does that matter? Or how do we really nurture this?
The talents that are coming in are unique, and they're things that you haven't seen before.
Okay.
So keep that in mind, that you're learning and those particular modalities of expression. I want to give you some examples of some of the older indigos. Stephen King. I'm sure that teachers told him that if he was in public school, they're like, Mrs. King, your son's a little dark.
Yes.
So I have a kid who likes particularly dark anime. Okay. And he's a teenager, and he likes to draw it. He likes to draw these anime characters. And he went through a time in school, in elementary school. He's in junior high now. But at elementary school, we had so many conferences. You'll find yourselves, parents, in the principal's office, in the school counselor's office, things of that nature. Other parents are going to be looking at you. So you got to conquer your shame. Don't be ashamed that your child is different. But secondly, you never know if you're fostering a little Stephen King, and Stephen King is perfectly functional these days, by the way. Not to imply that he ever wasn't, but you just never know. And I don't know how his childhood was, but I can tell you that from what I've read about him, he had some moments as a child of teachers and society members being, Mr. and Mrs. King, you got some issues with your kid, and he's going to grow up to be a, quote, loser. First of all, please lose those labels. Lose the loser label. The slacker, the loser, the names that come from, eons ago, if you're born in the 40s and 50s, and now you have grandkids, and you're like, oh, no, they're going to become a loser or a slacker or this or that. Lose the labels. They don't work well with these kids.
Right.
It's a quick way to diminish the self-confidence and self-love. So get rid of that.
Right.
And understand that everything is a talent. Everything that they're doing is a talent that you are likely unfamiliar with.
Right, right. Can you give some examples? I'm sorry, could you give some examples of some of the talents that you've seen with some of these younger children?
Yeah. Well, not that this is new, but a lot of these younger children are interested in merging things. They're interested in alchemy in a different way, merging science with spirit and mind with emotion. A lot of them are a little bit more like philosophers.
Right.
Art and music is always an indigo talent no matter what. Not that that would be new, but what you'll notice in the musical realm is that, you know, I have a kid who likes music, but he likes to scream it.
Right.
So he goes over to YouTube and he finds artists that scream music. And apparently this is a whole genre that isn't new at all, but particularly because it's so, for me, I don't really like when people scream. So it doesn't do anything for me. But for some of these third wavers, they're calling it like screamo or something. I don't know what yeah. And they're like screaming lyrics and they're like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, are you angry? Is everything cool?
Right. Right. Oh my gosh.
And they're smiling and laughing and they are experiencing exaltation of a certain frequency that we would perceive as bad, aka anger, bad, right?
Right.
They are exalting it into empowerment and joy. So they are ultimate emotional alchemists. So don't be so quick to judge what they're doing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. I had another friend who told me that her daughter said, I just had a conversation with God, and I'm so happy that I chose you guys. And she was completely blown away. So it's like, I just want to talk a little bit more about, how do we really foster this? So someone who didn't understand that as a parent, and would say, are you kidding? Like, you didn't me, but, how do you really accept, who they are and these things that they're telling you and these feelings that they're getting and these, intuitions, how do you like really learn how to kind of open up to that?
Turn off your brain.
Yeah.
Get out of your logic. Don't try to make sense with it. Certainly stop judging it.
Yes.
And admit that you don't know. Because when you don't know and you want to learn something, what do? Listen.
Yeah.
Not with your head, but with your heart. My 13-year-old is an interesting one of the third wavers in my household. And I recently took him to a new hair person. For some reason my brain isn't working, the word for it. So he got his hair cut and the stylist comes back crying. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. We'll have to apologize. I'm still working on shame. I'm like, did my children just break someone's heart? So instead of just like jumping to conclusions and saying, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 blah. I just kind of listened and I said, hey, you doing okay over there? She said, I've just never met a child like yours. He just really touched my heart. And and I don't see these expressions. He doesn't show this to me. Like he's not incredibly emotional. Society has turned him autistic. So I need you to kind of like observe and listen what's going on behind the scenes based upon other people's perception of your children. Because when this stylist came to me, I said, well, what did he say? She was like, it was so sweet. I've never had anyone say this to me. And the tears were trickling down her face. And she goes, he was sitting in my chair and I was doing my job. And he just randomly said, what did he say? He just randomly said, I've never met anyone who really enjoys their job. You're good at it and you love your job.
Wow.
And just observing that in her, and it touched her, it kind of catalyzed something in her, and he thanked her. He just basically told her how good he felt that she was happy while she was doing it and how happy that made him feel that she enjoyed her job and that it recognized her talent and recognized the beauty of someone actually enjoying their job. But it just like really touched her, and I just wanted to hug her.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah. So, you touched on, I think you said, was it autism? Did you mention autism? Okay. So I know that's a huge topic with some of these children because they don't fit into, this box that the school system and our society is used to. So they're being labeled, they're being medicated. Could you talk a little bit more about that whole construct?
With the medications, I'm against it.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I feel like most allopathic medications will dim the souls of these children and the inner children of adults.
Yes.
So, and not just psychiatric medication, most pharmaceutical medications are absolutely poison, in my opinion. Now, granted, I have to follow that up with a standard disclaimer if I'm not a doctor, and please don't follow my advice and don't sue me, aka blah, blah, blah. But as a medical intuitive, I watch energetically what it does to their energy fields, to their emotions, closes down the heart chakra so that you can't feel, because society is deeming emotions as a problem.
Wow.
They're not asking you to actually mend your emotions. They want you to turn it the freak off.
Yes.
They want your children just to fit in the box, sit down, shut up, listen, do the work so that they can be comfortable and unashamed.
Yes.
These children are unabashedly powerful in their glory.
Yes.
And to dim that is the shame.
Yes. Yes.
So I advise against it. I mean, you're going to have some exceptions, like if a person is self-harming, obviously, you want to take care of that. But if you have to use a medication, use it as a tool, not a permanent fix.
Right.
It is a temporary solution. And you want to get into that while keeping a child safe. But there are other ways to keep a child safe. So unless you absolutely have to, I would not take upon that label, because that label will stick with them. So, I am a single parent, divorced. Yes. And for about 3 years, when I was going through custody battles and things of that nature, unfortunately, the individual education plan that was put in place to help him while I was not there to mitigate, it got deeper. The other parent obviously viewed autism as a problem. So it got more extensive, the IEP plan. And more extensive and more extensive, to the point where they had him like in a room full of kids that, were nowhere near his level of function. Wow. Kids that were not, he's highly functional. Like a doctor would call him Asperger's. They would call it that. Mm-hmm. His original diagnosis before they just called everything autism for the purposes of insurance, his original diagnosis was, sensory processing disorder.
Okay.
So that diagnosis is the crux of a lot of what's going on, and there's more truth in that diagnosis than the other stuff.
Right, right.
And you can tell it because when bright lights are too bright, he goes into a fit. We were trying to have a family meeting the other day, and I had a little pillow. I'll just use my Kleenex box as an example. And it was on my lap, and I'm sensory in the way of, I love it. So I was sitting there, and this pillow was kind of velvety, and I was like, oh, so soothing to my inner child. And he grabbed my hand and he said, can you please not do that? And it was really, really hurting him. He could hear the sounds, and I kind of like jumped in his body as a channel to just sort of experience what he was experiencing. And the sound was about 10 times louder, to the point where it was like ringing in his ears. And he could literally the sound became something that he could feel. So some of these children are incredibly synesthetic. So if you study synesthesia, I was born a synesthete as well. These children have very unique talents. Like, for instance, my particular form of anesthesia, when I hear something, if I hear a frequency, it begins to vibrate and I see energy in the air. And that's how I see energy fields. And not only do I see it, but I taste it and I smell it. So like, people like have certain tastes and smells that I have developed that my senses have attributed to them. And can you imagine that coming from a child who doesn't know what's going on, and they're like, this person smells bad, and then they say that out loud, but the synesthetism is attributing that maybe they smell like lemons and that child just doesn't like lemons. It doesn't have to mean that they're being rude. It's just something that you don't understand.
Right, exactly. So do you feel like there's resources out there for parents who's So, I mean, what would you suggest? I mean, we need to start building more
You need
community.
to create your own, you are that resource, parents. Conscious parents of the world, you are responsible. No pressure. We are responsible for creating those resources. And this is why we're here today. Awareness is the biggest resource that you could hand to any parent. And then people who really wish to come forth with this will create schools, conscious schools, and all sorts of things. And that's happening right now. You're seeing different types of educational systems. You're seeing more homeschooling. You're seeing communities come together. You're seeing more intentional communities around education being built. And these are the resources. So look at your alternative education schools. My oldest right now is in a school that is like, they'll make him come into the school. It's interesting. It's a virtual academy, but it's also a school that he can come to if he needs help.
Okay.
And other than standardized testing and finals, if he's making A's and B's, he doesn't have to come in at all.
Wow.
He signs on, he gets a free laptop, he signs on, he does his work. If he turns in his work on time and meets with his student advisor every single day, on the alleged public days of the school year that the rest of the school follows, if he does that work, he doesn't have to come in ever. And that's very helpful for him because he has extreme anxiety about being he can't handle that kind of energy. So it's good for you to think outside of the box of what, if your communities aren't offering that, perhaps you could create it.
Right. It goes back to, we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I've read something about, these children are being born with these gifts and abilities because they are ushering in this new earth that's coming. So, do you have any comments about that?
Yes. Where do I want to start with that? That's such a big ball of wax to unravel. But I will say that as of December the 12th, prior to then, we'll just start prior to then. Okay. Earth was kind of in a balance, and we were holding this precipice point of about 50-50 with third dimension and fourth dimension, third and fourth, and always going like this. People around my age and in the second wave of indigos that come through, Robyn as well, we're holding a bridge, a balance, like the logical point, the grounded point for all the things that are happening right now on the earth. We take the woo-woo out of galactic history. We try to make things make sense in a way that's safe for everyone. And that's what the indigos that are coming through the second wave, we're here for that unity and that human connection to make sure that everyone understands that nothing is separate and that we all belong because we all are one. So that. But prior to then, prior to 12/12, past December 12th portal that I noticed is huge, we were kind of riding that precipice of third and fourth, and our dimensional progress with ascension on this planet. But beginning on 12th and probably going on to around January the 11th, from what I'm being told by the angelics, we are going into fourth being the dominant, like it's fourth and into fifth. So we're kind of going into lower fifth dimension right now, between now and January the 11th. So then it'll be very, very different because it's going from 50-50 to 49% being in third, and then 51% being in either upper fourth or lower fifth. Right. I don't know the percentages for what right now on that side of the 51, but that's what this portal is about. So as we are ushering in that age of consciousness, we're anchoring in this new consciousness. It's important to keep things safe, keep it real, try to avoid confusion and fear, because what I've observed in that is if you go into fear, then you're backing your frequency up back down to that 49% that will cling to the fears and stay in third.
Right. Absolutely. So, I'm very close to Gaia, and so I have to bring up that question. So can you just talk a little bit more about how making sure that your children have this connection to Gaia and that they spend time outside and they're connected to nature, how that helps with some of these gifts, nurturing them and or assisting with the ones that, aren't as positive,
Go backwards in time a little bit. Think about the people, the ancient Indian cultures who taught sun gazing and earthing. Our ancestors spent more time in the sun, more time on earth, more time cleansing in water, more time with their hands in the soil, planting their own food and tending to their gardens than we ever have.
Right.
Food is about 50% of the problem.
Wow.
With all of these alleged psychiatric conditions.
Yes.
It's caused by the foods, our atrociously poisonous, toxic foods in the United States in particular. United States and Canada are the worst.
Yes.
That is the problem in our country. For those of you in other countries, I wish that you'd bring your knowledge here because you're banning GMOs and things of that nature. My goodness, if you can make your ultimate goal as parents just to be able to plant your own organic food and crop, whether it be hydroponics, if you don't have space or room for a particular, that particular level of agriculture, you don't have the land, go into hydroponics, do what you need to do and follow the beautiful technological revolution and the research that's coming out that gives us that, that amazing knowledge to do these things in a small amount of space and with a small amount of light. Hydroponics is wonderful for that. So understand Earth's ecosystem, that what you take, you must give back. If you're taking something, don't take for sport, take and make sure that you are utilizing all of Earth's beautiful creations. So I'm not here, in other words, I'm not here as a proponent of veganism to say that you must just be a vegan, but you follow your own heart on that. And if that's where your heart is, don't try because you want to fit in your own family or anybody else. Don't try to force yourself to eat meat if you know in your heart that you don't align with it and it makes you feel like crap, either emotionally or physically. Why are you doing that to yourself? If you feel that you need meat, only take what you will actually use. Bless the animal. Thank the animal. Thank Mother Earth for everything that you take and try to give back. Because the universe is based upon the laws of reciprocity. It's not based upon the laws of karmic punishment. That stuff's over. 20 years ago, karmic punishment was over. So every time you choose to come back to Earth, it is because you're choosing it. So many people in the Indigo Parent Collective are telling me, I just want to leave. I just hate it here so much. I just blah, blah, blah. How can I teach my kids to love Mother Earth when everyone else is destroying it? Well, because that's what you came in to do. So stop complaining about it. Put your big girl panties on or boxers if you're a dad. Get with it. Stop complaining and do your work.
Yes. Agreed.
And you wouldn't have been here if you didn't want to be here. Believe me, there's no such thing as being forced to come back. That forced, alleged forced prison planet, cycle of reincarnation and false light, don't go to the light, all those teachings, I'm here to absolutely dismantle and completely have them fall apart in your hands. I don't believe in that. I feel like it's fear propaganda and will just keep you in that because you are divine creators. So of course, if you believe that, then that's what you're creating is being born again into an alleged trap. So when are you going to stop doing that?
So one thing I just got reminded of, so let's talk a little bit about the home environment and how that can help with some of these highly sensitive children. I mean, lighting and, music, essential oils. I mean, let's just talk about the home environment a little bit.
For anyone who has personally been in my home, some of you who are watching have, there's crystals in every room. Around the corners of the room, you'll see crystals hidden in funny little places where kids can't find them.
Yes.
And in some rooms, like the front room, when you come in, our living area, our space, as soon as you enter the home, is a place where I build grids and is a place with several plants.
Yes.
Is a place where essential oils and sage is normally burning.
Right.
So basically speaking, you want to make your home really comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
To the extent that however you do that, that you can feel the love, you can feel the cleansing, safe environment.
Right.
One thing that I did right away was to remove a TV from that space. It was a TV because people were wanting to congregate around the screen. So I went, no, we've got one living room that has a screen, and then there's no other screens in our house, especially not screens in the bedrooms. Do not bring your phones into the bedroom. Get an alarm clock.
Yes. Yes.
Get an alarm clock is what I have to say about that. No phones or screens or TVs, nothing like that in the bedrooms. Preferably, if you only have one big screen in the house, that's great.
Right.
Like that way. Because why do we really need all that? Why do we really need
right.
screens, you know?
Exactly. So we had a few other questions that people asked ahead of time, and then we'll get to some of the new questions. So another question asked before today was actually, are TV and video games a disturbance to your child's spiritual growth?
Absolutely. Most of the time. Just watch it and watch it in a way where you are listening, not just being entertained, because TV has a way that is programmed, if you will, to get you to focus on things that basically are turning off your empathy. And do it. I really challenge you to sit there with something that you watch and transcribe the words, because it goes by really, really quickly. And before you know it, you're being programmed with third dimensional paradigms, and so are your children if they're watching.
Right.
I mean, and it's primarily sex, gore, violence, racism, and language.
Absolutely. Agreed.
And it's all there. So I challenge you to find yourself some shows that aren't programmed with that. If you're going to watch TV, and stick with that and make it a limiting factor so that you understand that you connect. We might watch movies. We really like Moana. So we've watched Moana over and over and over again. It's kind of like the conscious movie of the year.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, whenever we watch a movie, my little one goes, can it be Moana again? And we never get tired of it. But the big boys of the house are like, oh, come on.
So, right. So another question that we had ahead of time, what's the best way to find the root of an issue with younger children who don't always know how to communicate their emotions?
I want you to try to get them to describe what they think, how they feel. Just try to get them to feel something about what's going on. And you can just ask them, how do you feel about that? And if they don't know, you can say, oh, well, all right, what does that mean to you? Whatever just happened, what does it mean to you? Because this will occur when trying to get to the root of emotions. You need to use the power of the now, the present moment, to evolve in that trigger.
Right.
It's very, very important to catch kids in the moment of, say, beating each other up or doing something allegedly inappropriate. And you kind of stop, get down on their level, depending upon what age they are, if they're young.
Right.
10 and below, I literally will, especially with my 5-year-olds, I will stop and kneel before them.
Right.
And just kind of place my arms like right there, the little one like on her chest, you know, and I kind of just look, you know, and I say, hey, it's okay. I'm right here. I'm here. I'm here for you right now. That's one of my catchphrases in conscious parenting. I am completely here with you right now. So, and then I also just say, you know, it's safe to love. It's safe to feel. It's safe for you to tell me what's going on. What are you really feeling? Oh, and they don't really know that. Right away, they'll be like the last time that happened in our household, she was like, the little 5-year-old, well, Eli hit me. And I'm like, how do you feel about it? I don't know, Eli hit me. Like they're just in the moment. So it's important to see if you could try to get them to the root of it. And if they can't, you can say, oh, well, I'm really sorry. That must feel terrible. How are you feeling about that?
Right.
You know, I'm here with you right now. You can talk to me about it.
Okay.
You know, so just try to get to the core of it.
Okay. Another question. What is a daily spiritual practice to do with children?
Family talk. Children aren't really into meditating. The new age, they just don't particularly like it. So just one family talk, where you just kind of sit and talk about your day. And I call it family connection time, where you just sit and you connect. Doesn't matter what you're talking about. Sometimes we're talking about how our days went and what could go better. Sometimes we also will go towards, all right, there are some things we need to discuss as well that might come up during family talk, like, please don't hide your gum up underneath the bed, but try not to make it so much about discipline.
Right.
It may come up occasionally, and sometimes it needs to. You want to preface it with love and connection. And if you have to go towards something where you're talking about chores or discipline or something that someone allegedly did, you want to save that to the end.
Right. Okay, great. So we have about 15 minutes left, and I just want to go to our Q&A section and try to go through some of those questions. So Katie asked, she said her children are empathic, and her daughter just turned 3, and she recently started seeing spirits. So she tells her that she's afraid and asks, what is that? Her son is also extra sensitive and has a lot of anger. What's the best way for her to parent in those situations?
I think she's going to have to trust herself more. The best way for most of you to parent your children is to trust your own parenting skills. Trust that you can. Don't show them fear. And if you're overwhelmed, try to, you could be honest and authentic about it, but sit with it together. And it's okay to say, I'm a little overwhelmed right now, especially with an angry child. This is something that I do. I have an angry one as well. So Katie, it's probably Lucas that she's talking about. What you do with this little one, because he's little enough to manage it, 11 and under, you can sometimes get away with this. Some people are going to say I'm crazy, but this is what works. It's similar to swaddling a baby. Right. What I do is I just come up and I just hug. It's like an incredibly intrusive hug. It's not too much, but it's just a little bit of a holding. Mm-hmm. And when they're angry in that way, I'm just like, I'm just hugging you and keeping you safe. I'm just hugging you for a moment. Now, sometimes it's going to make them more angry and try to get out of your arms, in which case let them, don't restrain them, but you do want to kind of swaddle them with some energetic love for a moment. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't, but the more they get used to it, eventually, like my little 11-year-old, when I do this to him now, he just kind of melts. Like when I do it, he goes, and he gets huffy and angry. And then after a while, he'll kind of cave in and go, and then he'll break down into tears, which is really what's behind it. And then he just kind of settles in, and I can rub his hair. Operating within the cerebral area of the crown is really important, because a lot of these indigos that come in are more crown oriented than heart chakra oriented. So when they kind of go into the tears, focus here and just kind of do a gentle hair rubbing. It's something that my mom used to do with me as well when I was angry. As a child, she would just gently rub my hair and my back, just rub my hair all the way down to my back, just go down in that direction. So it's like a pranic energy technique that I call raking. Yes. Not Reiki, R-E-I-K-I, but raking like a rake. So right. R-A-K-I-N-G. When you're doing that, it's the same principle that is used in pranic energy work, that you are raking out the energy and bring it down here, because this is where they collect most of their energy. They don't really know what you're doing, but you do. And when you get down to the shoulders, you can kind of shake it off a little bit and then go back. But they just find it very comforting, and it's because you are cleansing their auric fields in that moment. And kind of bringing them back to the mother love or the daddy love, the parental love, and recentering it, which is going to open the heart chakra more. Eventually they'll come down and tell you what's wrong. Right.
So we should talk a little bit about some of the children that are seeing spirits. I can imagine that's pretty scary for, some of the parents, or even some of the children that astral travel at night. I mean, if a parent really isn't familiar with this, what would you suggest for them?
The question, why is you're scared? Okay, I am completely here with you right now. We want to preface everything with that. That's kind of like my go-to conscious parenting phrase. But then secondly, you want to question the ego that's trying to get them to believe that something is bad. So you're going to do a little bit of the work by Byron Katie here, or a little bit of my resistance process. If you follow that on YouTube, you would say, oh, okay, this spirit is scaring you. Okay, what makes him scary? You want to question their belief that it's scary. What makes it scary? Oh, did he do something bad? Did he say something bad? What does that mean to you? Why is it bad? Is it true that he's bad? You know, you want to kind of get in their heads a little bit and get them to question what their beliefs are about bad and good.
Right.
And if they can formulate absolutely no evidence that is bad, and most of the time they can't. Most of the time it's like, oh, yeah, it's bad because they're a ghost and they're not supposed to be there. Oh, really? Why? Why is that true? Can you be 100% certain that that is true, that they're not supposed to be there?
Right.
Yeah. So you want to question everything. Is it true? Is it bad? Why is it bad? What does it mean to you? All those questions are appropriate keyword questions in my resistance process and in Byron Katie's process called the work.
Okay, great. So our next question is from Marie. She actually works with children who need fine motor development, and they are referred to her. And she wants to know, who is it that's sending her these beautiful, sensitive souls?
Her higher self. It's always you. You came down in and projected your light body into a physical form so that, because this is what you wanted to work with. You wanted to work with these children. It's your particular soul family that has these talents, and you bring these talents in and you use them to usher in this age of new consciousness, to hold a space of understanding for many parents who don't. So it's actually a really beautiful, valued position that you're in this society. So make the best of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because she and I have connected on a much deeper level. So maybe we'll ask you about that at another time.
What Archangel Raziel is saying right now with her,
okay.
Children need sand. Run their fingers through sand.
Wow.
Yeah, and put little things in there that their tiny little fingers can find and that they can take home with them, and that it would be a prize. It can be a reward, for them to bring these, and the rewards that are buried in the sand. It needs to be soft sand. When I say sand, I mean, because that will irritate some kids if it's just regular coarse sand that you get at like Lowe's or Home Depot. When I mean soft sand, I mean like the sand that would be really powdery, like find that kind of sand in the Siesta Keys, places like that. Really soft sand. If you can't find sand like that, find something that is of that consistency. It will calm them down immediately, and then they get a reward. There are cute little prizes that are actually sensory objects that they can take home, like sensory balls that they can squish and things of that nature to build that kind of development, or something that's in there that you think that as a practitioner might help them at home, that those could be little cute toys.
Right. Wow. That's beautiful. So the next question is from Gloria. She will be assisting in a classroom with children who are labeled as autistic. And do you have any words of wisdom to assist her at this time?
What ages? Does she know? Because I've noticed that there are different levels. So it depends upon how functional, but your primary goal is not just to promote functionality. Your goal is to get in here and to develop a bond of trust, because these children are seeking to be understood and to belong, but they are not seeking to be changed.
Wow.
They are not seeking to grow out of their autism simply for the sake of the comfort of society and parents who want them to go and make some money and get a job one day.
Right. Wow.
That some of them will end up functional in that way, and some of them simply won't ever, because that's not their role.
Right. So Gloria said that the children are 10 and 11.
That's a little bit more of a difficult age. So my next question to her is, how functional are they? Or is this a completely low functioning autism, or is this a highly functioning class? Because there appears to be, in our school systems, they will normally separate the two, but occasionally they'll put them together because they just don't have the resources. And if she's in one of those classes where allegedly low functioning, I'm just say that because I don't believe that they're functioning on their own.
Right.
But yeah, allegedly low functioning kids and high functioning kids are together. That is a bit of a challenge because it promotes the idea of separation, that some kids are doing better and get rewards for more functionality. Okay. So how about learning, if you're ready and if you can get approval, hopefully you can be the change you wish to create. Get approval to provide rewards no matter what. That rewards are a given. And some people are going to go against that theory. But the reward is love. The reward is support. The reward is presence. And you want to look into their eyes and promote activities where there is eye contact and human connection and touch. Now, this is hard in the school systems because they're like, don't touch the kids. But these kids need hugs. They need touch. Right.
Absolutely. So I have 2 more questions we definitely want to get to, and we have about 5 minutes left. So what are some alternatives to the ADD or ADHD medicine? Someone has tried vitamins, but that didn't work. Do you have any alternatives that, a parent could use?
Yeah. Don't get mad at me. This is not going to be easily received.
Okay.
Stop trying to make your children something that they're not. They don't want to be calm. They have an excess of energy. Take them to a trampoline gym and let them jump until they fall asleep. I have carried kids out of a trampoline gym in my arms, sleeping. They jumped so much. Jump with them. You could use the rest too. They need exercise, sunlight, maybe sports. You never know what it's going to be. Karate for some of my kids, that went really well because it's not just teaching you how to kick and punch. It's mostly about the principles of ethics.
Yes.
And they meditate in my kids' karate classes. Like they meditate. Wow. So there's interesting things where they teach you about ethics and they teach you so much. Mm-hmm. And that promotes, the calm. So, but sometimes you just need to let kids play it out. We didn't really see that. I had a lot of energy as a child. Mm-hmm. So, as opposed to trying to label me as an ADHD person, what my teachers did, and they're brilliant for such in that era, this was really brilliant because you didn't see this very often. They called my mother and they're like, okay, she just left class and went to the bathroom and she is doing gymnastics on the bars of the restroom. And my mom was like, okay, so why is there a problem? Because she's not in class and she could hurt herself. And they're like, well, did she? My mom was like immensely sharp. She's, well, did she get hurt? Well, no, but then other kids are going to start doing gymnastics on the bars of the restroom. She's like, all right, well, maybe you should have gymnastics in gym instead of gymnastics in the restroom. And maybe, that particular class is just not, maybe that's something that we need to look at that isn't particularly suiting her. Because it was always like after one class or before one class, and it was my way of kind of getting out my angst and my energy for not wanting to be taught by that particular teacher. Right. So we just switched the class, and then we also, the teachers were noticing that I like gymnastics. My dad got me in gymnastics, so you need to promote your children's activities, learn, observe, and give them what they need, as opposed to saying they should be doing this and they shouldn't be doing that. And for goodness sake, give your children more exercise, much more than you think. I have a kid like that, and I'm like, oh, you're bored. Sweet. Yeah. I got about 15 chores that I could use some help with right now.
Right, exactly.
I'm like, oh, you're bored? Oh, let's go running. And they're like, oh, God. I'm like, well, we have other options like reading books. And they're like, okay, all right, I'm going running.
Right. Okay, so we have our final question from Rayshawn. What advice do you have for women raising young boys in a community where being conscious and sensitive is discouraged and being a real man is interpreted as being aggressive or tough emotionally?
First of all, get your ass out of that community. I can say that to her because I know her. And this is just kind of how she talks with me.
Right. I know.
What's going on? So, this is a really badass conscious parent. She's like parent of the year right here. So you already know your answers. Like, why are you asking me? Trust yourself. Trust that you are the divine, empowered mom that you know that you are, and get your children out of that community. First and foremost, why are you raising a kid in that community? Freaking change it. Maybe start your own community. You're that kind of thought leader where you could do just that.
Yes.
And until then, what I would like for you to consider is be the role model of a leader, a divine feminine leader, by showing your son, because you already do, but do it publicly when people are trying to show him that that's not okay. I want you to stand up to those people and be like, please let me raise my boy and let him become the man that he wants to become. And do not impart your definition of masculine or not onto my child. Please, in other words, please stay the F out of my business as a parent. Sorry, I feel like I'm channeling her now.
Right. I was going to say your inner Rayshawn is coming out.
Right? Oh, believe me, there is one.
Wow. Well, Pamela, this has been so wonderful. And I just want to kind of like wrap up by just saying, like, you know, just go back to parenting from your heart, operate from a space of love and light, and be the example that you're looking for. You know, I was gonna say something about my books, but I thought about that when you were saying that we are the ones we are looking for. I started writing children's books over 10 years ago because there was nothing out there that taught my children, you know, that it's okay to hug trees, that we should be doing that we should step over bugs on the sidewalk, and among other things. So I think it's encouragement for all of us to kind of step up to the plate and you know, build and create what we're looking for.
Yeah, your books taught my kids a lot, because even though I try to teach them, when it's visual, some kids that are coming through the third wave are incredibly visual, and they need to learn by looking at something and having it read to them or reading it.
Right.
So they're listening to it, and like it's a combination of auditory and visual. I've noticed that is a thing in the third wave of kids coming in. So this is why your books were really important for my kids, particularly my littlest one, my 5-year-old. And you were the one that taught her that, you know, because, you know, we have two different sets of parenting when you have like double households here going on, and one parent's like, oh, bud, kill it. And I'm not. The book kind of gave her permission with an outside perspective other than just mom and dad's perspective. So it was like, oh, this author wrote this, right. You know, and she was like, oh, she believes like mommy does. So she really started to take that seriously, because as you guys know, as conscious parents, they don't always want to take it from right. the parent. So right. that was really good to get an outside view. The other day she came to my office and she was like this. I'm like, what? She was like, Russ killed a bug. Aww. And it was like the most devastating thing. So we had to have this like talk about the afterlife. And I'm like, how do you know that bug really died? She's right. like, because it's body. I'm like, how do you know there's something that's not more than a body? And she's like, I don't. I'm like, how do you know that light body didn't come back into another body of a bug and is already happy and crawling around right now? And she's like, oh. And then she like started wondering. So if you can produce the energy of wonder in your children when they come to you with these hard conversations about life after death and what happens when pets die and things of that nature, you know, what you're doing, what your job is as a conscious parent is to promote inquiry so that they are thinking powerfully on their own, not just like you feeding them thoughts, but you are causing them to question.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you, Pamela, so much. I love you dearly. I thank all the listeners today and those that will listen in the future. You can visit my YouTube channel at Raising Sun Rays, and you can visit Pamela's website at rreader.com. And I will put some additional information once we post the video. And I'm just so grateful for you, for everything that you've done for me, for everyone else, and just for being here and being the example for us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.